Today we are going to talk about one simple exercise that you can do in your bed while you're on your phone. Like, it's so easy. It's one of my go-to exercises when I am doing random things on my phone and I want to still get in my workout, my core workout. So I wanted to share that with you. It's a bridge. Super easy, but I'm going to show you how to do it properly depending on what your needs are. It looks really easy, but it really depends on what you need to have happen with your body. Like if you have an anterior pelvic tilt or a posterior pelvic tilt, if you need to work the front of your pelvic floor versus the back of your pelvic floor. Anyway, we're going to get into all of that right now. All right, let's start with the exercise itself. I really like this exercise, like I said, because it's super easy. Let's just pretend like I am in my bed and I'm on my phone. I can do this while I'm on my phone, right? And it looks super easy, but here's something I want you to assess. If you have, let's go over an anterior pelvic tilt. So an anterior pelvic tilt looks a lot like this, okay? So if you have this going on where your lower belly spills out, your butt kind of curves out like this, and you kind of stay in that position most of the day, this is how I want you to do your bridge. To try to counteract that anterior pelvic tilt, I want you to make sure that you are rolling, kind of tucking your tailbone under like that, okay? Now, with your bridge, I almost want you to do like you're kind of rolling your spine up, okay? So you're tucking and rolling your spine up, almost segment by segment, okay? So that's how you would do a bridge. If you are struggling with an anterior pelvic tilt and a lower belly pooch, this is going to make a huge difference for you, all right? So you're going to roll it, roll that pelvis, and you're going to lift. That's going to be yours, all right? So if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, you want to do those. You can do that when you're in your bed. You can do that while you're on your phone. Right now, while you're watching me, you can be doing this, okay? Some variations that you can do. You can roll that, lift it up. If you want to make this more advanced, you can just lift your heel off the ground. You don't even have to lift your foot all the way up. Just lift your heel. One side, other side. Now, the goal to really feeling this in your abs is when you do this with your heel or lift your foot, don't let your hip drop. It's your lower abs, like a belt, that waist trainer muscle that cinches you in. It's that part of your core that helps keep your hips flat even when you lift your foot off the ground. Okay? So your goal here when you're doing your bridge, if you're doing any kind of movement with your legs, with one of your legs, with your foot, your heel, or whatever, you want to keep your hips level. So lifting up, level. You don't want to see, let's see, this, any of that. Okay? All right. So that's for my ladies with anterior pelvic tilt. That's me all the way. I'm such an anterior pelvic tilt person. I love to make sure that I'm kind of counteracting that with my exercises. So if that's you, this is what you do. Now, let's say that you find yourself in a posterior pelvic tilt a lot. Like you clench your glutes and you hold yourself under. Even when you do a squat, you have a hard time really bending, hinging at the hips. You kind of do like a butt tuck as you go down. Or if you find that you're squeezing your glutes all day, you probably don't want to roll yourself up and do bridges like that. You need to learn how to untuck your butt, okay? So if you're one of those kind of flat mamas out there, which that is so normal because that happens when we are pregnant, we have this big load up front. We have different ways of carrying that load when we're pregnant. One of the ways is just letting it kind of hang out and having tight lower back. Another way is tucking under to try to give us some support and hold ourselves up. So it goes from person to person as to how you dealt with that during pregnancy. Now, after you have the baby, we tend to still hold those postures that we use to maintain ourselves during pregnancy. But now that we're not pregnant anymore, we just already have that habit, okay, that compensation for trying to get that core stability. So you just have to figure out where you are. And if you're one of those persons that tucks their butt in or holds their butt, a lot and clenches it to kind of support your core, then you might find that when you do your bridges, you want to work on relaxing, not doing that tuck motion, but keeping your hips in a neutral position and literally just lifting with your glutes. So before the anterior pelvic tilt, girls, we're gonna give ourselves a tilt, a posterior tilt, and then we're gonna lift. For those of us who are posterior pelvic tilt already, we do that butt tuck already, we're gonna relax that, and we're just gonna do a basic bridge where we're lifting like this, okay? So do you see the difference? If you do it with me, you'll notice the difference. Here, I'm rotating my hips and I'm going up segment by segment in the spine. This one, I'm just doing a hinge. Up, down, up, down. I'm really focusing on my glutes, not rolling and tucking there, okay? So depending on what you've got going on, you pick which bridge is good for you. And the same thing with like my interior pelvic tilt girls. When we're doing the hinge, if you are trying to just work on the glutes and you're not doing that tuck, hopefully this is making sense. If not, start asking me questions in the comments because I'm going to come and I'm going to answer them, okay? So we're just doing the hinge. Again, same thing applies for you. If you're wanting to advance this move, you're going to want to lift your leg or just lift the heel, and you want to keep your hips flat. That's where you're going to feel the burn, is when you lift, keep your hips flat. Okay? There you go. All right. So what's another modification? This is great also if you sit a lot and you have tight hip flexors. So you're constantly all day in this 90-degree position with your hips like this. Doing this bridge will help to loosen up those hip flexors as well. Okay, so this is a great one if you sit all day. At the end of your day, whether you're working or you're holding your baby all day, whatever it is, if you're sitting a lot, this is a great one to help undo the tightness of the hips, okay? And if you're wanting to strengthen your hips, again, lifting is going to help with the strengthening as well, okay? So a lot of times hip flexors, they're tight, but they also get weak because they're holding that tightness. So doing the bridge, adding the lift will help to tighten, will help to strengthen, properly strengthen the hips, but also stretch it out. When you do this, you're stretching those hips out, okay? And you're strengthening those glutes that you've been sitting on all day, all right? Another thing I wanted to show you very quickly is, let's say that you have back pelvic floor tightness. This happens so much, you'd be surprised, where the front of our pelvic floor gets weak. We sneeze, we laugh, we jump, we play, whatever, leaks happen, okay? And because our front of our pelvic floor gets weak, we need support. And to support the front, we squeeze the back a lot, okay? So we find that we're constantly gripping our butt to help support the front. And it does help, but that's not what our body really wants us to do. Our body wants us to strengthen the front of our pelvic floor, not have the back taking up all the slack. What happens there is when you tighten the back a lot to try to support the front, the back, because of tightness, just like with the hip flexor tightness, it's not getting stronger, it's getting weaker. So that's how we get that, what I call flat mom butt. This is not for those of us who are born with flat butts. I'm talking about those of us who have flat butts after pregnancy because we've held it so tight to try to support our pelvic floor or our core that now the tight muscle has gotten weaker. And tightness happens because I go through all this in my 8-week core challenge. Forgive me if I'm giving you too much. I feel like I have to explain because I want you to understand what's going on in your body. This is what happens when you hold a muscle tight. So let's say I'm holding my glutes tight. I can't bring it through its full range of motion because I'm holding it tight. And when you can't bring a muscle through its full range of motion, then it gets weaker. And that's what happens when we hold muscles tightly. Somebody was just asking me in the app today, they were like, in the Mommy Mango app, they were saying something about the issues that we have with sucking in our stomach. It's the same thing. Let's say we suck in our stomach all the time. Does sucking in your stomach make it flatter? Yeah, in the moment, but it doesn't make it flatter long term because you're holding the muscle tight all the time. It's not able to go through its full range of motion through the natural breath. That's why we go over breathing extensively in my 8-week core challenge, that it's actually getting weaker. It's not getting stronger. We're holding it tight. So anything that we hold tightly all the time is actually getting weaker. Okay. So we really need to kind of learn to relax it, let go, and strengthen it. So this is a variation of the bridge that's great for those mamas who need to build their glutes, focus on strengthening their pelvic floor, but also help to open up the glutes as well. I know this sounds weird because, like I said, your glutes have to go through its full range of movement for it to get strong. And when we're doing these pelvic tilts, this is a way of focusing on the front of the pelvic floor while opening up the back. Okay, sounds crazy, but if you do this with me, you will feel it. Okay, so as we're lifting, we might feel that we're gripping very hard there, which is normal because you're trying to strengthen that. But if you put something between your knees, ball, yoga block, pillow, it doesn't matter what it is, something there, and then I want you to squeeze in, okay? Squeeze in. When you squeeze in, it's going to open up the back of the pelvic floor, and it's going to cause you to focus on the front of the pelvic floor. So this is a great variation for those of you who need front pelvic floor strength and some opening up in the back of the pelvic floor because maybe you have some deep butt tension there, like around the tailbone. If you feel like your tailbone is tight in that area, there's tension there, then this is a great one for you. Or you death grip your butt all the time. This is a good one for you, okay? So we're gonna have our feet apart, like you can see mine here, about hip width, a little bit more than hip width apart. And then you're going to kind of rotate your knees in, squeezing, and then lift, okay? That's a great variation for those who need front pelvic floor strengthening and some opening up in the back of the pelvic floor. So you bring it in and you lift. Oh, that feels so good.